Hi, good morning. Um, Welcome back. Sorry, it's been a couple days. I think my mental health has been kind of just, ugh, not really mental health. I've just been in a funk, especially since I started doing these. So I don't know, but we're gonna keep going. So sorry, it's been a couple days. I miss you guys so much. So without further ado, let's get started. So we left off in chapter 6. I did actually record chapter 7, but like I told you, like I've been in a funk. So that day, like I didn't even sound like myself. I was just blah. And I also have a way for y'all to kind of read along with me. I'm really excited about that part too. So I'm hoping that we can um, we can do this, together, like I've been telling you. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're in Matthew chapter 7. Um, it says, judging others, chapter 7. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measures you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye? Sorry, you'll see my mouse moving, but I want to make sure that y'all are also reading along. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first you take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet, and then turn and tear you into pieces. Actually, that's interesting. I'm gonna actually have to ask my pastor about that last one in verse 6. That's just a little different for me. I even told myself that I wasn't going to write things down, but I lied apparently, because I wanted to write that down. All right. Ask and seek. Ask, seek, knock. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find it. Knock, the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be open. Which of you, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? If he asks for a fish, would you give him a snake? If you, then, though are evil, will know how to give good gifts to their children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything you do, do unto others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law of the prophets. We're right here on verse 13, the narrow and wide gates. Enter through the narrow gates, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. I feel like that one is definitely that applies to all of us. Right now, I do believe that I've really only sent these videos out to my besties, Jen, Becca and Rhonda, because they live so far away, and I hate the fact that they live so far away, and I just want to be able to Bible study with them. But I feel like this right here, this little passage, verse 13 and 14, kind of applies to all of us and what we're doing, like especially like Jen. Like Jen just moved to Alaska for a few months, to go work. Like that's insane. And I keep seeing pictures and things like that, and from what I can tell, like she says that she loves it, and that's not a path that most people would travel down. So I feel like in verse 14, but small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. So I think that that's really cool that you took that leap of faith to go and do this thing, and it's turning out to be beautiful, even though I'm sure that there are some rough patches over there you just haven't told me about, ma'am. But let's see, let's keep going. This one is verse 15, true and false prophets. Well, and in my Bible it says a tree and its fruit. So I guess we're going to just go with it. Verse 15, watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, sorry, hold on. My book has it kind of divided up verses differently from here. So I'm sorry. We're just going to start back on verse 15. Don't get mad at me. I promise I'll get better at this. Hold on, so you can see my face. I promise I'll get better at this. This is the first time I'm actually like showing y'all the words and reading. And so it's kind of a lot to juggle, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So we're going to go back to verse 15 because this goes all the way to my Bible. It goes all the way to 20 something or other. So anyways, verse 15, watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. And a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles? Then I will tell you them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. That's super powerful. Right here, true and false disciples. That, like this right here, these two ones, verse 15 through 23, those are really interesting because you can sit there and preach all of these things, but if your heart still holds all the sin and all of the hate, and you can be, we actually talked about this in church last Wednesday about kind of being a false prophet, because you could be you could be a preacher and preach all of these things, but go home and live a life of sin. You really do have to live a life, where you have to live in the way of the Lord. And I think that's just wonderful. You know what I mean? And here in this in this scripture that we're reading, it's saying, watch out for false prophets, because you can go and listen to their word, but are they really living like God wanted them to live? And that's also pretty important. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm changing things. Now you can see my face and the words. So that's pretty cool. Oh, I forgot. I'm still learning how to do all this. So, all right. And I think, part of what I've been, why I've been kind of feeling the way that I've been feeling the last week and a half or so is that, this true and false prophets is like, I'm not a preacher. I'm not anything of consequence, to be honest with you. I'm just your bestie. And I'm over here reading the Bible to you. And a part of me thinks that I just don't want to be doing something bad in God's eyes, because that's the thing, is that as of late, all I've wanted to do is just live for him. And I realized how far I went and how much, whenever I was younger, I still had to learn. And I've been, even though I know that we've talked about Christ a lot over the last 10, 20 years that we've been friends, I haven't gone to church. I haven't lived a Christ filled life. And so I have been a prophet in sheep's clothing or whatever, or even a disciple in sheep's clothing. And I think that really kind of hit home, and I didn't want to, I really just didn't, I don't want y'all to think that I'm trying to do this for anything other than bringing us closer to God and bringing us closer together, because to me, like, that's just so important. And I want y'all there. I want to be there after we pass. And I really just want us to be able to share God's love, but I also know that y'all are forever away and I can't actually have access to you. So we're going to stop doing all that part and we're just going to get back into the reading. All right, so now we're going to go for wise and foolish builders. Therefore, anyone who hears the words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and do not put them into practice is like a foolish man who builds his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not the teachers of the law. Now we're in chapter 8. We are starting here, Matthew chapter 8. Jesus heals a man with leprosy. When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, can you make me clean? Jesus reached out to his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. Immediately he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them. Sorry, hold on. Again, I told you, I got questions, okay? I got questions. And if I don't write down, if I don't write it down, then I'm going to forget. And now, don't forget, I did print these off. I don't know if you have a printer. I can send you the link or or whatever, so you can print them. That way you can, do your own do your own thing, find your own scriptures that you like, or what your takeaway is. And if you want to drop those comments down, that would be great. I would love to see, you know, what you're thinking when you're going through this too. Now we're in verse 5, the faith of Centurion. All right. Verse 5. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, Centurion came to him, a centurion came to him, asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority. The soldiers under me, I tell, for I myself am a man under authority. The soldiers with soldiers under me. I can tell this one, go, and he goes and does that one. Come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does that. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to the following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and come from the west, and will take their place at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnawing of teeth. Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Verse 14. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law laying on the bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were also brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with the word and healed all of the sick. This was to fulfill that was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. And then this one, verse 18, the cost of following Jesus. When Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side to the lake. Then the teacher of the law came to him and said, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, Foxes have dens, birds have nests, and the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Another disciple said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus told him, Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Oh, that one's a... Ooh. Man, that one was... Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Interesting. I think that's, that part right there is telling us, like, we all have to pay a price, maybe, I don't know. I have to go ask my pastor because I don't really know about that one. That one seems a little harsh. But again, not everything's as roses, right? Verse 23, Jesus calms the storm. Then he got onto the boat, and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came onto the lake, so the waves swept over the boat, and Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. He replied, You of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up, rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was calm, completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him. Jesus restores 2 demon-possessed men. Verse 28. When he arrived at the other side of the region of the Gadarenes, okay, 2 demon-possessed men coming from the tombs met him. They were so violent that no one could pass that way. "What do you want with us, Son of God?" they shouted. "Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. The demons begged Jesus, "If you drive us out, send us to the herd of pigs." And he said, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down to the steep bank into the lake and drowned in the water. Those tending to the pigs ran off, went into their town, and reported all this, including what had happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave the region. I find it crazy that they were taunting him. He said, "Have you come out here to torture us before the appointed time?" I wonder when the appointed time would have been. You know what I mean? And they chose to go into pigs. And that's why, a lot of people think that bacon is unclean. But from what I've been reading into the biblical diet and, because I need to lose some weight and nothing has worked. It's not even nothing has worked. I haven't been able to stick with anything. And that bothers me. And I think that I want to try, because whenever I was younger in my 20s, I really only ate once a day. I could go all day until dinner with, until I ate, until I could eat. And then, so I'm hoping that maybe, I can find another thing, but that I'm going off topic. But anyways, but look at verse 34. The whole town went out to meet Jesus and they saw him. They pleaded with him to leave their region. I think they were just afraid because of everything that just happened. Like they knew that those guys were well, I don't know if they knew that they were demon possessed, but they knew that they were very violent. It even said that they were very violent and no one could pass that way. But he came and he changed all of that. And those men ran off. I wonder if they, if they were when they were back to their normal selves, they were just afraid. And that's why they pleaded with him to leave their region. Oh, so now we are in chapter 9. Jesus forgives and heals the paralyzed man. Jesus stepped into a boat, crossed over, and came to his own town. Some men brought to him a paralytic laying on the mat. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." At this, some of the teachers of the law said to themselves, "This fellow is blaspheming." Knowing their thoughts, Jesus said, "Why do you entertain evil thoughts in your hearts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up and walk'? But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority over the earth and earth to forgive sins." Then he said to the paralytic man, "Get up, take your mat, and go home." And the man got up and went home. When the crowd saw this, they were filled with awe, and they praised God who had given such authority to men. As Jesus went from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting on the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It's not that the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but the sinners." Oh, oops. I totally forgot to scroll. So verse 12. On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Trying to find the words. Lately I've just been overwhelmed with shame with life, the way that my life has been the last 10, 15 years, because I really did turn away from the Lord whenever I was younger. And it mainly started when AJ died. And I walked away in 2012. I started choosing really bad decisions and choosing bad things, and it really is for the grace of God that I'm still here. You know what I mean? It really is. And these two verses here kind of bring me hope. And I know that there's more, and there will be more verses that'll make me kind of come to my knees. But this one here is on verse 13. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come for the righteous, but for sinners. And I'm in awe of that. And I'm so grateful that, Jesus came for us, because I am a sinner and I sin every day. Sometimes I get a little too cranky. Sometimes I, get a little self-centered. And I'm just so grateful that he desires mercy, because sometimes I really do feel like I need that. And I just worry that I don't, because I'll beat myself until I'm blue in the face. I've brought up stuff from whenever I was real young and just really laid into myself from back then. But I just love the fact that he desires mercy, not sacrifice, and that he came down to come and to be with us. And I appreciate that so much. All right. So verse 14. When John's disciples came and asked him, "How is it that we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" He answered, "How can the guest of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come from when the bridegroom will be taken away from them. Then they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth from an old garment, and the patch will be pulled away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved." While he was saying this, a synagogue leader came and knelt before him and said, "My daughter has just died, but come and put your hand on her, and she will live." Jesus got up and went with him, and so did his disciples. Just then a woman who had been subjected to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said, "If I can only touch his cloak, I will be healed." Jesus turned to her and saw her. "Take heart, daughter," and said, "Your faith has healed you." And the woman was healed that moment. When Jesus entered the synagogue's leader's house and saw the noisy crowd and the people playing pipes, he said, "Go away, the girl is not dead, but asleep." They all laughed at him, and the crowd had begun to pile up outside. He went in and took the girl by the hand, and she got up. News of this spread throughout that region. Verse 27. As Jesus went on from there, 2 blind men followed him, calling out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." When he had gone indoors, the blind men came to him, and he asked them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" "Yes, Lord," they replied. Then he touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." And their eyesight was restored. Jesus warned them sternly, "See that no one knows about this." But they went out and spread the news about him all over the region. While they were going out, a man who was demon-possessed and could not talk was brought to Jesus. And when the demon was driven out, the man had been mute spoke. And the crowd was amazed and said nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel. The Pharisees said, "It is by the prince of demons that he drives out demons." Ooh, that's a heck of an allegation, my guy. They just called him a demon. Ooh, that's awful. That is so awful. Verse 34. The workers are few. Verse 35. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the field." I think he's talking about there's a lot of people and there's not a lot of them, maybe. What do you think? Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field." Alrighty, now we are in chapter 10. Chapter 10. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. Here are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew. Thomas, Matthew, the tax collector. James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus. Simon of the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 sent out to the following, and Jesus sent out with the following instructions: "Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim in this message, Kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. I want to redo that. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim the message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely you give. Do not get any gold, silver, or copper to take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey, or shirt, or sandals, or a staff, for the workers is worth his keep. For the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search therefore some worthy person to stay in their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of the judgment than for that town. I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and flogged in synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as a witness to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. And that time you will be given what to say. For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and the father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me. But the ones who stand firm to the end will be saved. You will be persecuted in a place, flee to another. I truly tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers and servants to be like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of the household? So do not be afraid. Of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim on the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the ones who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet one of them will fall on the ground outside of your Father's care. And even the hairs of your head are all numbered, so do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Verse 32. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace on earth, but a sword. For I have come to turn man against his father, daughter against his mother, daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Man's enemies will be the member of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their own cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life and will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Verse 40, anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as the prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone, even a cup of cold water to one of these ones who is my disciple, I truly tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. And we get to know all 12 of the disciples, right? And it already says that, Judas betrays him, in which we know later on down the road that he does do that. But he sends them out with these instructions, and I feel like, those instructions are not just meant for them, it's also meant for us because, God calls us to bring more people. He calls us to bring people here. Or bring people, not here, but to the Lord and bring him to his word. And honestly, if I were you, I would totally meditate a lot more on chapter 10 and, see if any of that can apply to your life. I'm not saying that you go touch somebody with leprosy. I don't even think that they have anything with leprosy, but they have other diseases. Okay. But he speaks, Jesus speaks with such authority that, there's times where I don't feel like I have the right to speak with that authority, even though I know in the Bible it says that he gives it to us. We just have to have faith. A lot of times I go back to a passage in Mark and ask him to help me with my disbelief because I know that he's there. I know that Jesus is there. I know that these words are true. They have lately come out with more scientific proof that Jesus actually came and that he saved us, and that this stuff is real. This isn't just stuff that, pretends to make you feel good. Like, this is real. And, chapter 10 really calls out and says, hey, go and heal the sick. Go and heal the needy. Don't go to the people and the Samaritans that already have all this stuff. Go to my lost sheep of Israel. Go proclaim this message that the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely you give. And I just think that is so cool. And I know cool is probably not the best term to use, but, to me, it kind of is. At least in my brain, it is. And that's only because I think that the word here, the word right here is amazing. And I think that, I want to dive more into this. And because he tells us earlier in the chapter, right? Earlier in Matthew, he says giving to the needy, and in chapter 6. So this is 4 chapters before it. He talks about giving to the needy, prayer, and fasting, and how you don't do that in public, right? Excuse me. How you don't go and you get rewards from doing that in public, especially giving to the needy, right? Because you can pray and you can fast in your own home. But in chapter 6, let me get to it. Hold on. We're done in chapter 10. I'll go back to chapter 10 here in a second. But I want you to be able to read here. Chapter 6. Be careful not to do your acts of righteousness before men, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they have received the reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. So when your Father sees what has been done in secret, he will reward you. And that to me speaks volumes, and it applies to chapter 10, because he's saying, oh, let me go back so you also can see what I'm saying. Be prepared. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any towns of Samaritans. Go rather on the lost sheep. And then here in verse 9, that's where I'm trying to look at. Verse 9, do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. Not a bag for the journey, no extra sandals or staff, for the workers is worth his keep. Actually, I guess now that I'm just saying it, I was thinking of something completely different. I was thinking that he was saying, don't, sorry, I thought he was saying, like, don't go out and receive any items or anything. So, but still, I don't know. I think I lost my whole train of thought. It just kind of blew up in my face. I really have just lost I had a brain fart. I'm sorry. I just think that chapter 10 is worth really, I want to try to see if I can find more, and I might just end up having another video of just chapter 10, maybe, if I can find something. But I don't know. Jesus knew that it was dangerous for the 12 to go out and speak his truth. He knew it. And I think that that is worth mentioning, because even now, this applies even now, as we are a little more than a week or 2 weeks out from Charlie Kirk's death. A lot of people are saying that he's, he went out and spoke the word, which he did, and he lost his life for it, because I feel like everything is, you can interpret things differently, and I used to believe that, but I feel like if you lean on your own understanding, it'll lead you down a dark path. And, that's something that I really did in my 20s, was I leaned on my own understanding, and I don't even know what my own understanding was at that point. I was just dumb. That's all I can say, is I was just dumb, because I wanted to be so inclusive and just love everybody, which you can still love everybody, but still tell the truth and still show them, like, hey, there are better things. There are different things. And so, he even says in verse 16, I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. So he's saying, be on your guard, but don't do anything. Just be innocent. Like, just be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's going on. And if you get arrested, don't worry about what to say, because I'll be the one speaking for you. In verse 21, brother will betray brother to death, father and his father, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And that's one thing that Charlie definitely did, Mr. Kirk definitely did, was he did stand true to his faith despite everything else, despite people trying to use the Bible against him. And he was like, no, you're reading that wrong. No, you're interpreting that wrong. And, I don't feel like it's wrong to tell people that, they're mistaken. I feel like there could have been a better tact about it, because there's a lot of times where like you can see what he did, and there could have been a better tactfulness, if that makes sense. And I love verse 37, and it really does show you, even as parents, because, you're supposed to honor your mom and dad. That's a commandment, but you're not supposed to love them more than Jesus. And same with your children. That's honestly same with anybody in your life. Like, you cannot love them more than Jesus. And it even says, anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their parents more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who doesn't take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. And that 38 speaks volumes, because, the cross represents like your sin, and you have to own your own stuff. And whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. I think verse 38 is super important, because if you don't take up your own cross and follow you, it's not, you have to bear your own burdens. But at least this is my opinion. You have to bear your own burdens, like what you've done, but you also have to change your ways. And so I'm sure that there's a better way, or not a better way, something more, or how to really interpret that. But man, that's really, really good. I like chapter 10. What about you? What says you? What do you say? I think that it's wonderful. But I think we're going to stop here, because we went from 7 to 10, and we're about almost an hour into this. If you have any prayer requests, just text me, or you can drop them below. I don't want to put you on blast on YouTube, because it still is a public forum. But if you need me to pray, or if you want some extra prayer, just give me a chat. Just shoot me a text message. And I was asked a question about something in Matthew. It's actually, let's just go back to the beginning. I don't remember exactly where. 5. Ba-la-la-lam, 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 ba-la-lam, ba-la-lam. All right, so it is in chapter 5. Let me go back to my other. Sorry, I'm working off of 2 screens and one of them is like right in front of the other, so it's a little difficult. All right, so we're in chapter 5 and we're going to go down to this. And I did this a few I think my face is frozen. Here, we'll do it this way because I think my camera froze or something. Anyways, so in chapter 5, verse 27, no, I lied. It's divorce right here. Bloop, bloop. So if you remind yourself that this is really. Well, I guess we're just not on my face. But back to what I was saying. My friend has been divorced, and she said, anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. And, she really did not like that, right? And I agree. It's really harsh because it is. You take that to me, you take that covenant with God, you make that covenant with God, and it's permanent. You know what I mean? That is a very permanent situation. However, I want you to remember that this is before Jesus died for our sins. This is before he was put on the cross, because he didn't put himself there, but before they put him on the cross. And if you and your husband, because I know that you've been divorced, and I know that you got out of a really crappy situation. But this is my thing, is that if you truly believe in God, then repent. And if you can repent, then you'll be saved. That was the answer because I even went to a pastor at my church, and he said that. He said, if you're a true believer, you'll believe that, because this is true, because you are remarried. Like you have gotten remarried. And if you were true to your husband and you were living, I'm not saying that, you're not true to your husband, but what I am saying is that, you made a mistake a long time ago. And I feel like if you repent, or y'all can both do it, because I repented, or I prayed with Leo and repented and asked for forgiveness for us having sex before marriage. And I feel like that was super important for us to ask for, because, we did take this covenant with him, and I promised to love him and to be with him forever. And I told Leo, I said, how can we ask for anything if we haven't even asked for forgiveness for having sex without being married, because that is what we did. And I have to believe that because we ask for forgiveness, we are saved and we are forgiven. And I just want you to remind yourself that even though this is harsh, you at least know what his views on it are, and where you and your husband can ask for forgiveness, if that makes sense. But I did want to just touch on that because I told you that I would ask, and I did. And meditate on it. Or whenever you go back to church, ask your pastor too, and just tell him that, you've been reading Matthew and this part bothers you, and, hopefully you'll get some clarity on that situation. Okay. But next time we're going to start with chapter 11 in the book of Matthew. We're kind of trucking along. We still got some little ways to go in Matthew. We've got 28 chapters, so we still got another 18 chapters to go. I'm hoping that maybe next time we'll get through another couple, and just kind of do a little chunk by little chunk. But stay safe. Talk to somebody at least once about God if you can. I know it's hard because it's hard for me too. But try to just bring it up among somebody. Okay. But anyways, just know I love you. I'll be praying for you. And I'll see you next time. Okay. Bye.